that mean? Well, we would all like to know what that means. And that's the part that's still an open question. We don't have decisions on that yet, and we don't have any information from the regulations. So again, it's up to you factually, and Dria will be addressing this as well, to talk specifically about what kind of evidence you actually provide. Next slide, please. This is the last point that I'm going to go through before we kind of jump into some examples of practically how this works and what you actually need to do. But the functional limitation in terms of showing how you are actually impacted, for many of you, will really be about describing how it is that even though you may have test scores and achievements and successes that are much greater than the average person in the population or than most people in the population, that what it requires of you is significantly different than it requires for most people, either because of the duration, the length of time that it takes you to do something, the circumstances under which that you must have in order to be able to do it, or the manner in which you do it. This is another area that is still in question under the law, but it is something that if you address it factually and explain it well in your petitions, is essential in proving how it is that you are functionally limited. So I'm going to stop with my kind of little legal lecture, and let's get to how it is this actually works in practice so that you get some real specific substantive examples that you might be able to connect with your own situation for how you can start to build your case.
Great. My disabilities are attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, and dyslexia, and dysgraphia, which is a disorder of written expression. I was first diagnosed when I was 7 years old, and I've been on medication since I was 10. So despite all the horror stories I heard about not being able to get accommodations, everything was so well documented for me that I thought I'd have no problem. Boy, was I wrong. Thankfully, I had Sue to help guide me through the process. So I submitted all of my paperwork early. I provided copies of every psychoeducational examination. I had copies of letters showing that I got accommodation on the SAT, on basically every test since, forever almost. So. And the accommodations that I received, which included extended time, a private room, the use of a computer, and I figured, I'm all set. So when I first walked into Sue's office, though, I had just filled out the forms the bar examiners had. And Sue looked at me and said, "So where are your attachments?" I said, "Oh, they're here." She said, No, I mean, you need to see attachment and explain more and be a lot more detailed about how your disability impacts you. And I said, well, it's hard to kind of quantify how my disability impacts me versus how, able-bodied people are, because that's not my experience. And so we went through a lot of things, and I ended up basically submitting a treatise to the bar examiners in California, and it still wasn't good enough. I had received most of my accommodations. I got time and a half. I was able to take the exam over 6 days instead of 3 days, so I could limit my hours of testing. I got breaks, and I got a private room. However, what I wasn't given was a guaranteed computer. And you can look at my handwriting, it's horrible. There's no way I could do the California bar exam handwritten should my laptop break down. So, and it was interesting, my denial letter basically was wrong. And it said that, well, using a computer is a preference. How many of you guys need to use a computer for your exams, or else? Or else. Or else. Not so much a preference, right? Yeah, no, you need the computer. And basically they had written in the denial letter, they're also very uneducated. You have to use this opportunity to educate the person reviewing your paperwork. And essentially what the evaluator had said from the California bar was that, oh, that's just kind of part of ADHD, you don't really need it. Dysgraphia is not a separate disability, which, by the way, the DSM-4 is. It is. And I had asked for snacks and water because I'm on stimulant medication. And so for me, I don't always eat I have to eat snacks through the day, and if I don't eat, I get really ill. So, and that was denied. And so I did my appeal, which is like 4 pages and has 8 footnotes, and sent everything back. And I also submitted, you'd think it's totally a joke, but I found I actually had found a fact sheet by the Centers for Disease Control that talked about ADHD and comorbid disorders, which include dysgraphia, disorder of written expression, and highlighted it and tabbed it. And no joke, it's seriously disability for dummies with the bar examiners. And so this is actually wrong, and it's, you know, I cited every single like psychoeducational exam, quoted everything was tabbed when it went back, and you know, I had to make my case in ways that I didn't, you know, think I had, since I'd taken every essay exam since high school on a computer. So that was, and you know, there are things I didn't get for the bar exam, even though I used word processing all through law school and college on exams instead of soft tests, so I could have grammar check. I didn't get that. It seems like they do bargaining. It's like a negotiation with the bar. You know, they don't want to give you everything. So maybe you throw in a couple extra things that, you know, but they'll take away. Like, you laugh. It's like, you know, and you're not going to necessarily get everything. So you got to figure out what you can live with, or throw in extra things. Like we asked for a 2-day, I just reviewed my paperwork this morning in preparation for the panel, and I had totally forgotten we'd asked for a 2-day break between the 3rd and 4th days of the bar. And they denied that, which is fine. I don't know if I could have handled 2 extra days in the middle of the bar exam and just, yeah, Rebecca's like shaking, no, there's no way. You know, after all stress ball the whole time, and just sit in 2 days and do nothing, I think would have probably killed me. So, you know, I mean, it's really about you have to really be really diligent and make the case and be really, really clear about each accommodation you need and why. And just know that the forms they give you, that's not enough. If you just fill out the 1 page or the few pages, you're going to get denied straight out. It's not enough. Although you think it would be, since the bar examiners put the forms together.